go live.
Happy Wednesday! Welcome to Link Live. Sorry, we are like 10 minutes late. Had some technical difficulties. I'm Marina, Editor-in-Chief of Food Logistics and Supply and Demand Chain Executive, and I'm here with my beautiful editors. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Brielle and Mackenna. I'm the Associate Editor.
And I'm Mackenna Morales, and I am the Assistant Editor.
And we are here today because yesterday we had such a phenomenal SCN Summit. And when I say that, I mean, all of them have been phenomenal. But when I say that, it's because we received so much feedback on yesterday's content, the speakers, the slides, everything that we talked about. It was just amazing. So the topic was on automation and robotics and how that plays into the future of retail and online grocery. And it was just really cool to see some of the things that they were talking about that we see as consumers, but then also see the things that they were talking about that we write about, and then how they forecast into the future, like some really crazy technology stuff that you just can't imagine even that's how you're gonna shop. So we kicked it off with Vish Pucha, who from Walmart. And I know Brielle, you sat in that one. Some of the things that he talked about was that China tops the retail and e-commerce sales of all countries, with United States being number 2. He talked about how, I can't even read my notes. I'm like sitting here like, what, I'm like, because this is how I write when the summit's going on.
This is why you type it.
I know, and I was like trying to listen and write, and oh my gosh. He talked about micro-fulfillment nodes, seamless checkout, which some are already starting to do, which I thought was interesting because it reminds me of like when you're little and you accidentally walk out with a pack of gum in your hand or something. Mm-hmm. Like now you can't do that because everything, you get charged for it. So
right.
But him being from Walmart, we talked about the drones that they just started to implement that carry PPE over to, I think he said North Carolina. That's what I wrote down. And then what I thought was really cool was he showed this video, and it talked about motion censored gloves and grippers that are to be used in restaurants for chefs. So it kind of replaces not the chef, but some of the other sous chef kind of functionalities. So it's like these gloves you put on and it mimics the hand motion to how you mix something or measure something. So it kind of takes a little bit of the legwork out of that. So it provides a little bit more back of the house support. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. And then we talked about how robotics isn't there to replace humans, it's just to reduce some of their redundant tasks and make things, he said, 30% faster. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool. Brielle, anything to add?
He touched on a lot of really cool technology. Definitely, he also alluded to it being more commonplace within the next 10 years, I think. He said one of the cool things, well, he even said that with those hands, the chef hands, that, you know, famous chefs can come in and do like a program and, you know, and then in like 10, 20 years, if this becomes commonplace in your home, then you can just like order from, you know, Gordon Ramsay, and Gordon Ramsay, the hands will be programmed based on what he had recorded with the company, and he can cook you a meal in your home. It's pretty insane the level of automation that's actually here today. I mean, that's not commonplace, but it exists. Like we saw the video, we saw it working. So it's pretty amazing. And then he talked about a sorting machine that can sort a bunch of letters, and in what would take multiple humans days to do, it took seconds. So it was really exciting to see all the cool stuff he had to detail.
Yeah, his presentation was pretty cool. I agree, and the hands, I don't know, the video, his overall presentation was just so cool. I know one of the questions he was asked was, you know, even though implementing automation can be very expensive, you know, how much do companies actually save from that? And he was saying companies can save 55 to 65% in the long run, because they're taking tasks that take humans many hours to do, and it cuts that time in half, and then they can be best utilized somewhere else. So that's a pretty big percentage. So I thought that was pretty cool. I know, you know, anything that has to do with technology from a big box retailer is just pretty cool, because, you know, they're always at, not just Walmart, but all these big box, they're usually at the cutting edge of things, and and innovating and
Mhm.
not necessarily trying to be the first to do it, but trying to do something that's better for the industry as a whole. So once I figured out my notes.
Oh, he also did talk about how, which is a point we've heard a lot of times from a lot of experts and people that we've interviewed, is that automation is going to help the job instead of replace it. So he made a point that most jobs in the warehouse and in logistics are going to be affected by robotics and automation, but it's not, they're not going to be replaced. Their jobs are just going to change. So
Right.
it's just helping the overall efficiency of the operation.
Well, and it makes sense because I think back to like even us and like our jobs and how much things have been kind of automated to some degree, with the technology we use to do certain things, with software that we use to transcribe our interviews, or, just little things like that kind of improve just our day-to-day tasks, but it frees us time to do other things, which the list seems like it's never ending. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then we had, I have to go back to my other notes, Bruce Williams, the CEO of Halltail, and his was pretty interesting because he provided a lot of forecasting into the future type stuff, predictions. And he talked about some pretty cool technology that does semi-exist, but some of it's in the infancy stages. And we actually had very good chats going on throughout his presentation about people who were very like, wow, this technology he talks about is really impressive. I mean, self-dock driving. He talked about drones, how packaging is crucial to sending a message to your customers and your suppliers. Smart warehousing. He talked about one of the things he said was people who were afraid of the technology before are now embracing it, not because they have to, because they figured out that it makes their lives easier. And that's totally true, because we think about all the e-commerce stuff, ordering online. I mean, the older generation, that's not what they do. But now, because of the pandemic, they've been kind of forced to do that. And then they realize, well, this actually isn't so bad. I don't have to actually leave the house to do these things. And he said the more data and info you have, the more you understand your customers. I thought that was pretty cool. He also talked about smart cities. So we're talking about smart warehouses and smart cities. And how a lot of the, robotics in cars, and a lot about, the acceleration of this technology, how it's just been so fast tracked, not just because of the pandemic, but now consumers are so conditioned to this is how it's supposed to be. So Brielle, I know you sat in that one as well. So I don't know if you have anything to add. You're on mute.
Yeah, I forgot. I saw the dogs go up to the window and I was like, yeah, so I thought the smart city things was really interesting, and I can definitely see it. Another thing is he was talking about the evolution of retail and how so much has changed, and a huge thing is that people are just realizing, wow, it's so much easier for me to just be like order and and all these different features that you have on your mobile device. But now that there are so many different ways and consumers do have so many different kinds of wants and needs, you have to make sure to cater to all of those needs. Because if one person is like, okay, I want to go in store and get this, like, and see if it's available online, you have to have that, because if you don't, they're going to find somebody else that does. So it's just kind of making sure that you have all those different avenues filled to serve all of your different customers.
Yeah, I mean, especially because those channels aren't going to go away now. I mean, that's like the common theme we all talked about with all the speakers is, they don't see any of these trends going away. They don't see companies reverting back to how they were doing things before the pandemic. This has kind of opened up, opportunities almost that they didn't know existed. So, I just thought it was interesting. He had a lot of cool stuff about refrigerators and the technology behind refrigerators. And he talked about the exoskeleton, is that how you pronounce it? And Brielle, you wrote an article about that, actually.
Exoskeleton.
Exoskeleton. Yeah, how like a person who's like 100 pounds can pick up a fridge just by wearing the suit. Mm-hmm. So it made me think of you, Brielle, because I know you wrote that article on it. So
yeah, it's pretty crazy. yeah, a lot of technology that can just help enhance you literally physically.
Yeah.
We will all be cyborgs in the next 10 years.
I know. I mean, who doesn't want to pick up a fridge, you know?
Me, probably.
Superheroes. So I don't know, I thought it was cool. And then we had Steve Denton, the CEO of Where to Go. McKenna, you sat in that with me.
Yes.
He had a ton of great information. I mean, I could have probably sat and listened to him for another hour because he just offered a lot of insight into an industry that I thought I was already very familiar with. You know, he talked about, you know, how before the pandemic, everything was 50-50, B2B, B2C. Now it's about 85% B2C. And so he provided some case studies, which, you know, if you want to know about those, you have to register and watch, are on demand, because these case studies proved that companies were able to find alternative ways to get their product to the consumer, even though places are shut down and you can't necessarily give customers that access. And so it was just fascinating.
He also said that in order to be in business today, you have to be in business with everyone.
Yes.
I thought that was a really good quote because that is very true. You
It
can't
is.
be selective anymore because everybody has internet access. Everybody's going to want to order stuff, especially when we're in a pandemic and we can't go places. You have to work with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That was the quote I wrote down too. And he said companies need to be creative to go to market strategies, partner with everyone. Yeah, and just continue to be transparent to the people that you work with. And I think that that's so important because, you know, not everybody before the pandemic, but a lot of companies, you know, held a lot of things to the vest. And then when stuff hits the fan, you know, you don't know where to turn to or where to go because you don't know what everybody's doing. And, you know, I know that within our own team, we're kind of each other's backups. You know, we have to be because, you know, that's how you keep the machine going, keep things running. So I thought that was a good point that he made because you step back and you think, well, that is very true. Everybody needs to be cross-trained into everybody else's jobs and understand it, and then understand what your suppliers are up to. You know, with single sourcing, you know, what kind of fleets are they dealing with? You know, what are their challenges? And then he said, online purchases are driven by offline experiences. And I thought that was cool because, you know, you step back and you think about it and it makes sense because we're ordering stuff, but we're sitting at home. We're not anywhere else doing it. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool.
I am influenced by Instagram influencers very easily. So
I just need an Instagram ad and I'm there. It knows me. So
oh my gosh, the ones that you can like scroll through now kill me because I keep on spending money. Like I have it.
And so they know they're obviously targeting you. They know what you've been looking at.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One day
it's like how it is on Facebook too. I'll like do a Google search for, you know, if I need new towels or something, and all of a sudden in Facebook it's like all these. I'm like, no. I just need like 5.
You can go into your settings in Instagram and you can see the list of things that Instagram thinks you like, and it's pretty crazy. Some of it was like super out there, like really random, like super niche and had nothing to do with anything. But then a lot of it's like, oh yeah, of course.
Like in the cart.
But something that Steve said yesterday was that now I have to look at how he worded it. But the state of commerce is not new. It's just accelerating. And you can look back on like any SCCE survey or something like that because we constantly talk about e-commerce and how it's always on the rise. But in the last 6 or 7 months, that's all people have been doing. We're buying stuff that we don't need. I have like 3 fig trees now. And so it's only going to continue to rise because of the pandemic. And because we all know the convenience of it now, it's going to continue to evolve. And then he also said that if you're not solving supply chain challenges, then you're going to experience long-term pain. And
That's
that
a very good quote.
And that long-term pain will only be passed down to customers if you don't solve your problems.
Yeah. And that's a very good quote because, I mean, we're all the companies are out there to make the best customer experience possible. But when things happen and things go wrong, think about it as a customer. You go back to the retailer. You're not going to go back to the transportation company or the fleet or whoever, is having the issues. And so, yeah, it does create a domino effect that companies have to deal with. And yeah, he had some pretty good quotes. I mean, I have a whole page of quotes that I'm not going to share because I want people to register and find out for themselves because it was that good of a presentation. And his case studies, he brought up 2 case studies, and they were just eye-opening because it shows that, the pandemic is horrible for a lot of people, but some companies were able to find little opportunities for themselves to branch into other channels that they didn't before, and they're actually succeeding. And I think that it is hope, and it shows positivity. And I think that that's something that we all need to keep in mind when we talk about the pandemic. So I enjoyed it. I could have listened to him for another hour.
Before we switch off, he also commented on the customer experience, and that the customer experience still matters even though we're all at home and ordering online, and that if someone didn't have a good experience with their order, that it could really prevent them from going back. And we talked about this in our last mile episode, which was like back in April. So you can hear me complain all about Bath and Body Works.
I always think of that. It's the soap episode.
It's the soap episode, but yeah, it took like almost a month to get my soap, but because it delivered in like pristine condition, despite having to go literally around the country twice, I am going back. I bought candles today, so.
Just in time for the spring, right? No, I'm just joking.
Oh,
Because they'll show up in the spring.
I got it. Took me a second.
Bad mom joke.
I was like, Marina, it's almost October.
I have to have at least one weird comment, a link live, where you hear people are like, huh?
No, it's really, it makes perfect sense. I don't know why my brain did that.
No, and I always think of like when we hear last mile, the challenges, and people say something about the customer experience, I always think of that story. And it's so true because, I mean, you think about stuff now, even when you order something online, a lot of the stores, you don't want to go in to return it. You want to be able to bag it up and return it back. And sometimes that's a hassle in itself. So like the whole thing is just, it can become a hassle if you're not completely satisfied. And, the way that companies handle that whole return process is in and of itself, I think, part of the solution to how they get these repeat customers. So yeah, I thought he was very interesting. We closed out the sessions with, I have to pronounce her name, Ina Kuznetsova. She's the CEO of 1010 Data. She had a ton of great statistics. I mean, statistics that were just mind-boggling. And what they did was, a lot of these companies, they take the United States as a whole and say, here's how the overall food service is doing. Here's how the overall food is doing. But they drilled it down by state and then by county, because when you step back and think about it, every state is doing different things based off of their laws or who's in charge. Some are open completely. Some are still semi-lockdown. Some counties are still semi-lockdown. Some are open. So everybody's doing something different. So when you take it by county and then by state and then by nation, then it kind of gives a different perspective as to what is really going on with the food crisis. And so she had a lot of great information in just the month of March. So we're talking about like those 2 to 3 weeks that the pandemic like really hit the United States. The food industry experienced food online, 525% growth in just those 2 to 3 weeks. Deli meat was up 269%. Beer was up 216%. Office furniture, 70%, and alcohol delivery, which made me think of you, Brielle, because you were getting wine delivered to you for some time. That was up 1,000%. I mean, holy cow. Holy cow.
It is essential.
Yeah, it is essential. we're all locked at home and nobody's going anywhere. So,
The office furniture one is super interesting because obviously everybody was working from home, so they needed desks. But when I moved, that's when I needed a desk and everything. All the prices were super inflated too, and I'm like, I cannot drop $200 on a desk right now.
It's you think about it because you're like a desk, that's a one-time purchase, where like food and alcohol, those are repeat purchases, but office furniture, it's one time, that's it. But then you have to think of like when the schools went remote. I mean, we had to buy desks for both my kids, then we had to buy the chairs, then we had to, like, after school started, it's like, oh, now you need a riser for your Chromebook. Oh wait, now you need new headphones. I mean, like the list just kept going. And it was just, but you're right. I mean, the prices, you're just like, okay, they really just need this, like, for a couple, the time that they're doing this at home, and kids outgrow things. So, I don't need anything crazy, but yeah, it's just crazy how those numbers have just skyrocketed. We talked about the different states. She talked about how natural disasters do kind of play into that, but companies prepare a little bit better for that. Like the pandemic, nobody really had a pandemic plan in their back pocket. People have natural disaster plans, they have fire drills, they have all these things. Nobody really had this plan like in place. And so that, is something she also reiterated the supplier collaboration and how that's important. And then she said,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, she was just saying how COVID had accelerated e-commerce growth by 4 to 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm just gonna leave it that. Drop the mic. Okay, what were you gonna say, McKenna?
So lame.
That's my one for the day. I'm just joking. Continue.
She said that during lockdown, consumers not only changed how they shop, but they changed who they shopped for. And I thought that was very interesting because obviously we all switched to online, and I always only buy for myself, but I lived like an hour away from my parents at the time, who are elders, and I had to call them and be like, what do you need? Let me work the internet for you.
Yeah, and it's so key. It's very true. We're buying things for our parents. My kids were in school and we're eating lunches there, and now they're home and they're eating lunches here. And you have to think of all the times when you're not in the office and maybe you go out with coworkers for lunch, and that's not happening. So that's a very good point. It just really resonates with how things are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
it shows that like you can't be selfish at this time of your life, or at this time in all of our lives. That's a choice that you're making, and you have to be willing to be helpful, and that is helping the supply chain advance as well.
Right. Well, and the flexibility and understanding, and I think that that's key. And I know we talk about that a lot. Like these frontline workers are everybody in the supply chain industry has just bent over backwards to make sure food and pharmaceuticals and everything just keeps moving. And when you have a poor customer experience, you have to keep in mind that, there's lots of people involved in that process, and everybody's trying their best, and things happen. And, we just have to kind of deal with it to some degree,
And don't call someone up and scream at them.
Yeah. So I just think it's, it's a good time for everybody to reflect and say, you know what? It is what it is. So I thought it was a very, very good session. I thought these speakers were fabulous. I'm so happy they were a part of it. For those watching, the on-demand version will be on later this week. So, the registration link will be there. If you've already registered, you can get right in with your registered link that you already registered with. And then October 27th is our big professional development sessions, our workforce development session, I should say. How to hire, train, and speak to today's youth. And it's not just today's youth. I should actually kind of change that, because it's to everybody. We talk about procurement in the supply chain. We talk about, how to implement remote learning in the supply chain, which isn't just youth, that's everybody, because we're all kind of dealing with this from different, wavelengths. And so it talks about, how to keep employees engaged and what the supply chain industry should be doing to make sure that its younger employees are well-versed and ready to go. And, we've talked about this on previous Link Lives with professors that we've had on here that, it takes everybody to get everybody on board with that stuff. So I'm pretty excited. So that registration link will also go online later this week as well. So very excited for all of this. So we have what's on the dock on foodlogistics.com. September issue is now live. Our Women in Supply Chain Awards now live on sdcexec.com. Very excited for all of our winners. Congratulations. Have such
Great
wonderful.
award.
I know we've had such wonderful feedback. I'm so proud of these ladies. I'm so glad that we're a part of this. It's going to be on the calendar for next year, which reminds me, keep your eyes peeled, everybody. Our 2021 calendars are almost finalized. We have a print and digital for both publications. So exciting. So lots of opportunities. Very excited. And we just closed nominations for FL 100. Right. And the green supply. So stay tuned for that. And what else am I missing? It's today International Podcast Day. Am I correct?
It is.
Make sure you go to Link and listen to Brielle's podcasts because she is killing it there.
Not only is today National Podcast Day, but it actually is the last day of September, which is National Suicide Month. And our latest episode talks about suicide awareness in the supply chain. So take a listen. There's a lot of insightful stuff there.
Yeah, and that is an important topic, the mental health in the supply chain. And you don't realize it. And it is such an important topic. So Brielle, thank you so much for covering that because it is a topic that we kind of maybe need to discuss more of.
Yeah.
Needs to be covered more. What else am I missing? I'm always missing something. So
Follow us on social media. It's also that national holiday as well.
Yeah, I always forget that. And just in general, keep an eye out. Foodlogistics.com, sdcexec.com, tons of great content, online only content that's out on there. Lots of new products that are on there, lots of market research, some statistics on everything that's related to the industry. So appreciative of all the industry that continues to support us and likewise. So we're doing some great things and we appreciate all of you being a part of our journey. And thank you for watching and listening. And we'll see you next week at 11 a.m. Central for Link Live. And my sign made it the entire time. I'm so excited.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.